Hello, everybody, and good evening, morning, afternoon, whatever it is
Whenever
that
you're
you are in the
listening.
world. Yeah, whenever you're listening. This is Dan, the host of the Pregame Network podcast, joined as always by my bestest pal, Anthony. Say hi, Anthony.
Hello.
The only gaming show on the internet, not afraid to offend anybody, ruffle feathers, say what is on everybody's mind, but nobody wants to say out loud. And oh boy, are we going to get into that today.
Yeah, we got
But
quite a lot going
yeah.
on.
Oh yeah, but not before we talk about what we've been playing. I think I've been going first like a bunch. So Anthony, what have you been playing this past week?
So I tried to mix things up a little bit this week. Instead of getting caught in the usual rut that I normally get into, I tried to play a handful of different games. Ones that I haven't played in a while, but that I enjoy. I kicked off the this expedition, I guess, with Pizza Tower. Do you even know what that is? Do you remember it?
The name sounds vaguely familiar, but no, I
Yeah,
can't think of it in my head.
it's from 3 years ago. About I think it's one of those indie games that it sits in development for a while as they figure out what they're doing with it. It's gone through multiple iterations. It's basically a take on Wario Land 4. Did you play Wario Land 4, the Game Boy
No,
Advance
I
game?
I never. The
Okay.
only thing I played was WarioWare, I think,
Oh,
like
okay.
the collection of mini games on
Yeah,
the
that's
on the DS.
WarioWare. Yeah, that's
Okay.
WarioWare. Wario Land is, what's the best way to put this? It's kind of like Wario Land 4 specifically, the one that everybody remembers, the one that everybody likes. Uh, and it's kind of a format that Nintendo has abandoned since they don't really do that anymore. It's basically like you run through the level, you kind of build up speed, you occasionally get transformed into different things, you break through walls, you collect different things, and then at the very end, you trigger like an ending sequence where you backtrack through the level, but normally there's different routes and there's different obstacles, and it's race against time. Otherwise, you just die at the end. Pizza Tower is one of a handful of games that have kind of aped on that formula because, like I said, ever since Wario Land 4, nobody has really done anything with it. I'm sure there's a few anecdotal examples, but it's one of those that has been desperately looking for one. And Pizza Tower went through quite a bit of development differences throughout the year. And basically, what it ended up was it leaned to the speed aspect of it. So it's a platformer game. You can run up walls, you can dash through certain walls, you collect all the different the whole thing. The whole premise of the story is you have this guy who's running a pizzeria. He's not really like a bum, but he's like kind of a schlubby guy, and like there's this giant tower near his pizzeria that is threatening to just completely destroy him with like a giant laser beam. So he climbs the tower, this pizza tower, in order to confront the guy at the end. So it's like every floor there's a handful of levels, then you fight a boss, and then you move to the next level, and you're supposed to collect pizza toppings in the level, get higher ranks, that whole kind of thing. And it's just a fun kind of speed runny kind of game. Like the first time I played through it, I think it took me 9 hours just to go through everything.
Okay.
I think I played it for about an hour and a half, 2 hours, and I'm like three-quarters through the game trying to do everything along the way. And it's just fun because it's one of those momentum, run, you do damage, you do combos. Just not much to say. It's fun. It's got good music. It's a kind of platformer that people don't really make. There's a few other fan games that tried to do the Wario Land stuff that kind of just got left in the shadow of Pizza Tower, but Pizza Tower is a lot of fun. Other than that, I played some Roller Coaster Tycoon 2. I did some of the scenarios, just something to unwind after all that hecticness. Just nice to sit down, relax with one of the great sims of ever, really, because like I always say, they kind of died after this golden period where Roller Coaster Tycoon and Age of Empires and The Sims all coexist. I do think that some of the flaws of it are there, and when I say flaws, I mean it's just that once you know a lot about the game, you can kind of optimize the fun out of it. And I try not to do that. I try to put the game down whenever I reach the level of like, oh yeah, I could just do this, instead of like making a park that looks nice and like is fun. What I end up, you end up just making like the perfect roller coaster that fits into the square footage of whatever, and I don't like doing that. So I played a little bit of that. I play the Open Roller Coaster Tycoon 2 mod, which is kind of like I do minimal stuff with it. I just do use it for the resolution and also a couple quality of life features that help alleviate some of the small flaws that it has. Like there's a button that you can refurbish your rides because over time the idea is like if you have a ride out for a while, there's wear and tear that you can't really fix. People get bored with it, and the only solution would be to delete it and just rebuild it. And now there's a little button where you can just refurb it for the same amount of money. I like small changes like that that are quality of life, and that mod has quite a few of them. Where that, I don't even know what you would call it. It's kind of like, remember Open Goal for the Jack games?
Yeah.
It's like that. It's one of those things where it's like you insert the game proper into it and you get all the quality of life stuff. That's basically what it is.
Gotcha.
So I played some of that, and then lastly, I decided on a whim, because everybody's talking about it because of that god awful Netflix show. I played Devil May Cry 3.
Okay.
Dan, do you have any experience with the Devil May Cry games at all, aside from DMC? Because I know we talked about this at least once. Just refresh my memory.
I played that remastered trilogy years ago, like very briefly, and then I played DMC again very briefly. Like those action games really aren't my thing, but I've tried it. I did not stick with it though.
That's fun. Yeah, I just wanted you to refresh my memory because I know we had a much more in-depth conversation about it at a previous point in time. Yeah, so I went back. So I'm kind of weird with the Devil May Cry series. A lot of people, typically, if you walk up to a Devil May Cry fan and you say, what's your favorite Devil May Cry? 9 times out of 10, they're going to tell you Devil May Cry 3. If you ask me, I'm going to end up saying Devil May Cry 4 or Devil May Cry 1. And I'm one of the few people who don't really see a lot of the issues that some people do with Devil May Cry 5. I actually really like Devil May Cry 5. I like all the games except for 2, because nobody really likes 2 because it's a mess. Even though I really love the atmosphere and a lot. There's some good to be salvaged from 2. You don't have to say you love it. I know I certainly don't, but I'm weird. So, Devil May Cry 3, I don't love it like a lot of the Devil May Cry fans really love it. I hesitate to say it's one that has shown its age, but at the same time, I acknowledge it is one of the best action games ever made. Like, if you are the kind of guy that likes the action and character and style of Devil May Cry, and you happen to like Devil May Cry 3, there's a burden in that because there's very few games quite like it that just, that plays and feels the way that it does and embellishes in itself. It's also an awesome prequel, which is a hard landing to stick. Prequels are kind of touch and go. And I kind of did what might be called sacrilege. I played the HD version because the HD collection.
That's sacrilege in your mind, all right? You're not really normal, okay?
Well, here's the thing. First of all, I guess, Dan, you just don't care about games as an art form like God. I do, or preserving these kind of things. But I will say, in the collection, Devil May Cry 1 is the one where it gets the worst. Like it's nearly as bad as the Silent Hill HD collection, which might be the worst collection ever made. I also got to note that Devil May Cry, the HD collection, it is I think it's one of the first games that Neobards, the guys that did the Dead Rising Deluxe Remaster, ever did for Capcom. So this kind of show they haven't really improved all that much. But yeah, so there was some very bad lighting issues, some weird texture issues. There was a lot of random issues, but I decided, it's been a while since I've played Devil May Cry 3. I only played the HD version of Devil May Cry 3 once. So this was essentially me going in and doing my due diligence. And it's like, the things I have to say about it as a collection is really just, it's like the Dead Rising Deluxe Remaster. If you take a fucking awesome game and you make it slightly worse, you're still playing the watered down version of a really awesome game, And it's less offensive than the Deluxe Remaster, because this is more negligence and just not being up to the task, not objectively changing things that are worse, right? So about the game itself, it's a really fun game. It's satisfying to hit. The movement's fun. The combos are fun. I said at the beginning that it's essentially aged a little bit, and that's because, and I know some people are going to get on my case about this if they listen about this, but Devil May Cry 4 and 5, when you play as Dante, you have all these weapons at your disposal at once, and you have all the styles where you have the style where you can, one's sword master, so all of your melee weapons, you have extra abilities and they're a bit stronger. Then you have gunslinger, where you use all of your projectile weapons, you get extra functions in them and they're a bit stronger. Then there's trickster, where you can teleport and dash around, and then there's Royal Guard, which is all about parrying and blocking and all that kind of stuff. And in Devil May Cry 3, there's also 2 extra ones. One's called Doppelganger, where you get like a shadow clone so you can do more stuff. And then there's Quicksilver, where you can like freeze time and stuff like that. The thing about Devil May Cry 3, it is the first game to introduce styles of that nature. And because of that, the caveat is that going into a mission, you can only choose one to go in at the beginning of each mission. And I think it's a little restrictive. I don't like there's extremes in this argument, as there are arguments always about this kind of stuff, Dan, because you have the people who say like, oh, Devil May Cry 3, it's a bad, it was good for its time, but it's bad now because you can't switch styles on the fly, which ironically, if you play the Switch version, they actually added that, so if you really wanted to, you can go do that. And obviously there's PC modding and whatnot. And then you have the other side, which says like, you are playing, if you mod it or you play the Switch version of this game and you use the style switcher, you are not playing Devil May Cry the right way. You don't treat games as an art form. You are a terrible person. I'm just in the middle, and I say like, it would be nice to have. What I find more egregious, Dan, is that you can only go into the mission with 2 melee weapons and 2 guns when there's like 5 to choose from on each. And I think not being able to switch between weapons to that caliber actually hurts the experience more than the style switching, because the style, it works one way or the other. But I'm very glad in either case that as the series went forward, whenever you play as Dante, you can switch between his entire arsenal on the fly. You just jump between them, and that's where it's really cool, But I guess what I'm saying is Devil May Cry 3 is a fun game. Overall, I really don't have any bad things to say about it outside of the fact that like the HD collection ruined a couple things for me. Going into this, I think it is really just because the Netflix series is out and everybody's talking about it, and the Netflix series is a bunch of bullshit that kind of shits on the lore of Devil May Cry and doesn't handle the characters. It's notoriously made by a man who hates Devil May Cry 5 because it revived the series and he wanted to be seen as the savior of the series, despite the fact that in his Netflix series he can't stop referencing Devil May Cry 5 because it's the freshest in everybody's memory. And the other thing I would say, just because it's going to be a topic and we're going to talk about it in the future, and probably not today, there are rumors that Capcom wants to remake Devil May Cry 1, 2, and 3. And I mean, aside from playing through Devil May Cry 3 in its entirety, I have gone through, I tried a little bit of 1. I can't do it. I can't do the HD version of 1 because it is a fucking disaster. I tried a little bit of Devil May Cry 4, and I looked at 2 and I said, I don't feel like playing it right now because 2 is really that bad. I think that the Devil May Cry trilogy, the original trilogy, 1, 2, and 3, is a portion of the franchise you can look at and say, I could probably remake that. I think Devil May Cry 3, you could remake the game from the ground up to kind of incorporate the things I just complained about with the weapon switching and the style switching, make it an experience that can handle a Dante that's that fucking powerful, you would, which I think you would need to do. You would need to rebalance it. Devil May Cry 1, it's a bit murky there because I think it is one of Capcom's most stylistically pleasing games. It has just this gothic atmosphere that got tarnished in the HD version a little bit, but it's just like, I don't know if Capcom is capable of remaking that and holding it together. But you could also argue, because Devil May Cry 1 it has a lot of that survival horror roots because it was a spin-off from Resident Evil 4, you could potentially bring it in line with the rest of the series in a fun way without disrespecting the core aspects of Devil May Cry, right? And then 2, just one way or the other, you should remake 2, because 2 is kind of a fucking mess. It is really that bad. 2's the gimme remake. Like, that's the one you should remake. They're going to remake 1 or 3 first, because 1 and 3 are the popular ones, but Devil May Cry 2 is the one that needs a remake. But I guess this is all to say I've been playing a lot of Devil May Cry. I've been in a lot of mood for Devil May Cry.
You just fucking go sometimes.
Because like, I have so much to say, because Dan, the more I love something, the more I can talk about it. And
yeah,
then
I'm aware. I know.
There's a multiplier there where like we're at the tail end of it. Of my opinion, where like people just ruin it for no reason. But we will always live in a time where corporations could ruin things through misguided action. So that's like a multiplier. So I'm like, ooh, I love this thing so much. And then there are people out there that want to ruin it for me. So I have a lot to say about it. But yeah, Devil May Cry 3, a lot of fun. I definitely recommend it to, you could really recommend it to anyone. I recommend the whole series to anyone, really. But Devil May Cry 3, I understand why it's everybody's favorite, essentially, because it is a perfect starting point. It's a prequel. It shows you so much about the lore of the franchise in that first one. It talks about Dante and his brother Virgil and the relationship there. Goes over what Sparta did. It shows him establishing Devil May Cry. It's a standalone experience in that all these things are happening at the beginning of the timeline, so to speak. You know, there's stuff that happened before it, but this is a good starting point. It has all the characters that you would want in it. It's a ton of fun. It's a solid action game, and while I would have liked things like style switching, and while I'm more hung up about the weapon switching, it still handles fine on its own, and there's still a lot of fun to be had. So that is what I've been playing.
All right, very cool.
Yeah.
I have had more than the usual this week in my repertoire.
Yeah.
So I'll start with the staples first. Since I've gotten the new laptop, like I've been kind of flip-flopping between a bunch of different games just to see how the laptop handles it. So Battlefield and Helldivers have been a pretty big mainstay for the past several weeks, actually. Helldivers, like in particular, really grabbed me again. I've been having a lot of fun with it. Just like there's so much in the game as far as usable items in the form of like weapons and stratagems and vehicles and whatever the case may be. I've noticed myself just using random shit just to see how it works out and if I like it and if it's good and what builds I can do with it, which is exactly the same thing that I ended up doing with Darktide. Like I just started playing the game because it was a lot of fun. I wanted to experiment with different things and see what was good against what type of enemy and blah, blah, blah. So that's what I've been doing with Helldivers. And, you know, me, you, Harrison, and Nick have been playing a lot, which doesn't hurt at all. So I've been playing a lot of Helldivers, a lot of Battlefield. I played a little bit of Darktide today, actually. I haven't played it in a while, you know, especially since I got the new laptop. Runs perfectly. I'm also priming myself for the new class, which is coming out in June, but I'll get into that later on in the episode. Space Marine 2 got a new patch, and I wanted to jump in and try that as well. One of my friends that I met over Destiny, actually, he plays a lot of Call of Duty Endgame, and I was like, maybe I'm missing something, like, because you and I played very briefly and we kind of wound up, we landed in the same conclusion. It's just like, it was fine, like it wasn't anything special, but I was playing with him a little bit yesterday, actually, and yeah, I mean, it's a fucking mess. It's a complete mess. Like they are clearly going like for some PvE only endgame activity that like has the corpse of DMZ over the husk of Warzone. Like it's very weird, and it's got like a bunch of zombie elements thrown in there as well. And it's a complete fucking mess. It's a total mess. It doesn't know what it wants to be. It has no focus. But yet, you know, it's still fun to shoot stuff in COD, so I can give that to him, and that's pretty much like the reason my friend gave as to why he played it so much, or plays it so much, because I asked him, I was like, why do you play this? You don't seem like a Call of Duty guy. Like, I don't understand what you find appealing in this. And he's like, well, sometimes at the end of the day, I just want to turn my brain off and just shoot random stuff. I'm like, okay, like that's fair, I get that. So yeah, I played a little bit with him.
I can appreciate that emotion, although I will say that like I'm always wary of hearing that, you know, because whenever it's like, oh, you know, sometimes you shoot, turn your brain off and shoot things. That's how you end up with like Call of Duty ending that bad in the first place. Is that mentality, you know? Yeah. Not shitting shade, but I hear that and it's like, whoop, my head's on a pivot. Like, who said that?
Yeah. Yeah. So I mean, that was his logic, and again, like I get it. So I played a little bit of that with him. I was not impressed the second time around. Like, I just think it's a total mess. It just feels out of place. But I mean, whatever. That's neither here nor there. I downloaded and played the Warhammer 40K Bolt Gun 2 demo. You remember me playing the first one like last year, right? I assume.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah. It's the pixelated like boomer shooter that's set in the Warhammer 40K universe, and they're making the second one.
I tried that one a little bit. Yeah, I remember.
Oh, you did? Yeah, it's a good time, and it's basically the same thing. They added a little bit more stuff, but it's the same. It feels very, very, very similar, but that's not a bad thing. In addition to that, because I bought the new laptop, you know how the game companies run promotional deals where like they'll give you game codes and whatnot.
Yeah.
So I got the game code for Lego Batman Legacy of the Dark Knight. I started playing that a little bit, and it's just like it's really cool. It's very interesting what they did with the franchise, and like the Lego games have been getting more and more ambitious with each entry into the property. But like at the end of the day, it's still a Lego game, and it's just not really my cup of tea. I'm gonna probably play it a little bit more. I mean, I have 3 hours in it, but like it's just not. It's not really for me. Like, it's not really grabbing me. There's no depth to almost any of it.
Yeah, my problem with the Lego games is overall, because I mean, I'm sure. I mean, I don't think I've ever asked this to you directly. If I haven't forgotten, but did you have the Lego Star Wars games growing up? I know I had a lot of those.
No,
Really?
I did not.
I'm actually very surprised. Especially the thing about the Lego Star Wars games is because they've been reimagined, I guess you could say, like multiple times, because they did the original run, then they're just like, oh, the original run was great, so let's do the prequel trilogy, and then at a later point they did like the entire trilogy again, and then after that they did another saga where they covered all 9 movies.
Yeah,
so
it
it's
was,
like that it's been around
Legacy
forever.
of Skywalker or something like that.
Something like that, yeah. And the reason I bring that up is because I look at it like this way, you know me, I'm not particular about like, oh, is it made for kids, blah blah blah, and all that kind of stuff, right? But I've noticed that like the Lego games, while the gameplay, as you mentioned, they've been getting more ambitious with that, right? I feel like the way it presents itself and like the way that it handled the limitations that they used to have, like they're getting less clever, I guess you could kind of say. Because I think about,
I have no idea. I can't speak to that at all.
The only thing I'd say is like I think about the old one. It's like they're retelling the events of whatever they happen to be adapting at the time. But originally they had to get like clever because like they didn't used to do voice lines and stuff like that. So it was a lot of pantomiming and visual humor. And I just feel like once they got voices, like they went from being like a kind of clever all ages entertainment kind of thing to like verging on made for like really 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 young people, like you gotta
that's
understand.
kind of how I felt about it. I just that's one of the reasons why it wasn't it's not grabbing me.
But here's the thing though, it's like I can like, once again, all ages entertainment, perfectly fine by me, but like there's a limit, where it almost feels like it's made for toddlers. And that's like that's like the limit. I feel like Lego is getting really close to that. Like it used to be like kids or anyone up, and that's like where everyone is.
Yeah, that's fair. Now, that's fair.
Yeah, and the thing that kind of disappoints me about it is because this new Batman Lego game, and you can tell me now how it plays, is like my understanding is like it kind of fills a gap that the Arkham games left in how it handles and how it moves and stuff like that.
I don't think it fills any type of gap like that. I think that the Arkham games are perfect the way that they are.
No. I mean to say like those games aren't being made anymore. This is the closest you can get in today's. I'm not saying like, oh, it's the Arkham formula but better. I mean, the Arkham formula is currently not on the market. This is the closest you can get.
Then yes, fine. Yeah. Then yes, that you are correct in that. It's actually like I don't even want to use the term rips off because I think that is just unfair for like a Lego game. But it's the same exact combat system. It's the same open world layout and template. Like it's all the same, and which is fine. Like that whole system and mechanics that they built out for the Arkham games, it's honestly perfect for what they set out to do. And for TT Games to put that in Lego Batman, there's nothing wrong with that in my opinion. Like it was already perfect. It's not like they're trying to outdo Rocksteady in the Arkham trilogy. So like I don't have any issue with them basically using the same exact combat and open world system that were in the Arkham games. But it's exactly that. It's the same thing. And like I was an expert at the the tutorials right away because I played so much of the Arkham trilogy.
Yeah.
So yeah, I've been playing a little bit of that. The last thing that I'll go over before we get into the news proper, I finally, Anthony, I finally beat God of War Ragnarok.
Hey.
Yeah. So if I had to give it a number ranking, I would probably give it an 8 out of 10. And the reason why, because I thought that the first one, God of War 2018, or 2017 was a perfect game. It was my personal game of the generation. I thought it was a masterstroke in storytelling, game design, level design, everything. I thought it was perfect. The reason why I am knocking 2 points off is because I think God of War suffers from being too big for its own good. There was too much to do. Like, I got to a point where, like, I just wanted to be done with the game, and I decided to beeline it through the rest of the story. Like, there was so much for me to do, and I think I picked it up when I was about halfway through the game. And let's see, in God of War, the first one, well, this says 2024 because that's when it came out on PC, but I have 26 hours in the first game. I have 30 in Ragnarok, and that was just me going at my own. And I did most of the shit in the first one, and I went out of my way a little bit in Ragnarok, but again, I reached this point where, like, I just wanted to be done with the game. So I decided to beeline it, and I'm still 4.5 hours over what my playtime was for just the original God of War. So I just feel like it was too ambitious for its own good. That being said, I loved everything else about it. The way that it wrapped up the story, I thought was exactly how it should have ended, and the only way it really could have ended. My favorite thing about the game, though, about both of them for that matter, because the way that I look at it, God of War 2017, I probably keep on fucking up the year, but whatever. God of War 2017, 2018, yeah. So God of War 2018 is essentially part 1. Ragnarok is part 2. Like, they are basically the same game. They added like a couple different things in Ragnarok. Yeah, you can play as Atreus now, but it's nothing groundbreaking. It's not sequel worthy in my opinion whatsoever. But Ragnarok is simply part 2 to the God of War 1 story, and because of that, like, all the quality carries over with the exception of just the scope of the game itself. And so that's why I knock off 2 points. It was just way too big for its own good, in my opinion. That's what I was going to say. My favorite part about both of the games, for that matter, is the dynamic between Kratos and Atreus. I thought the writing on both games for those characters in particular were so tight. Like, it was... They didn't overspeak. There wasn't like an over delivery of lines or anything like that. The voice acting was spectacular. I really, really, really enjoyed Kratos and Atreus's dynamic, especially like the way that they ended the story between the two of them. So yeah, I finally beat Ragnarok. It's a great game. Like, don't get me wrong, but it's just not nearly as good as God of War 2018. So. Yeah, I finally beat Ragnarok. I'm glad that I did too. And like, there's no reason for Ragnarok to be like 180 gigs either. Like, I don't understand.
Well, the stuff like that just, we talk about all the time. The lost art of compression and optimization and all that kind of stuff. That's just a given with these bloated AAA messes. The only thing I will say, and obviously I have less experience with it because Ragnarok didn't really interest me at all, just because I feel like...
So let me just stop you real quick right there, because I can understand like why you would feel that way, and it's totally valid as well. For me personally, like, knowing they were going to continue Kratos and Atreus's story, I just needed to know where it was headed and where it was going to end, because I loved the story in God of War 2018, like just full stop. I just needed to know what they were going to do.
Yeah, listen, that's don't misunderstand me, because I like Kratos as a character, and I find the aspect of his journeys to different mythologies very interesting. So God of War will always be in the back of my mind, aside from the fact that I thought the original trilogy was a solid hack and slash series. I do really like God of War 1 and 2. Less, I think 3 is exceptional. I just have less to say about it. The reason I bring up like, Ragnarok didn't really interest me all that much is because everything I saw about it felt like the pacing and like everything about it felt askew. Like, at a certain point I'm just like, I'm probably not going to play this for a while. I really don't feel like, so I skimmed some of it, just to see. And it honestly felt like to me that like there was something off about the pacing and the writing. And why I say this is like you said, at a certain point you found yourself rushing through it. There's too much of the game. I always say that the too much of a game problem typically stems from like the game not being enjoyable somewhere else. I can't say for certain with that, and obviously I'm not here to psychoanalyze you to see like, well, how did you really feel about the game? But typically speaking, if a game's good, unless the pacing issues are just that fucking bad, like you can't really have too much of a good thing. I guess you could say that's my opinion on it.
Maybe, yeah, but. Anywho, yeah, that's pretty much all I've been playing this week.
Right.
A lot more than I usually do, but I'm so happy that I finally finished Ragnarok.
No, yeah, it's definitely. Listen, regardless of how it ended up, getting it done and dusted, just closure, just get it done. You know.
Yeah. So anyway, with that out of the way, 30 minutes in now, we can get into the news proper and. Boy, hey, howdy, have we got some shit to talk about, Anthony?
And I have to stop you, all right? Just for 1 second.
Okay.
Before you explode, I'm gonna let you know that I've done a small amount of research, you know?
Okay.
I've done a small amount, okay? I'm not going to try and take the reins from you or anything, because this is your show.
That's fine.
You know? Even if I wanted to. Yeah, no, but I mean, this particular, what you're about to get into, that's your show.
Yeah.
Even if I wanted to, I can't really trump a decade's worth of on-the-ground experience with a week of offhand research. I mainly just wanted to kind of make my own little timeline of events so I can best follow you on this, and also so that I can better formulate my questions and opinions here, because we've talked about a potential, post-mortem on this for a while, and we were trying to do my due diligence here, all right? So obviously...
I'm glad. Like, I told you this off-air. Like, I want... you to interject. I want your input and blah blah blah.
Yes. So obviously, what for anyone who's paid attention to Dan ever, you should know we're about to talk about Destiny, because a lot of things happened with it. And just a few things I noticed that from rubbernecking essentially, or I guess I'm curious about. You don't have to address these right now. I'm just going to let you know that there are 3 things that stuck out to me that are kind of around this. Number 1, there is currently an effort from industry voices, the insiders and the creators, to rally players behind Marathon. Like if you love Destiny and you love Bungie, you have to rally. Like they're trying to get you to play Marathon, trying to get you to move on, much like I'm sure Bungie is currently doing. 2. Marty O'Donnell has been under fire because he joked that the darkness in Destiny was wokeness all along. So people are currently getting on his case, and basically I saw someone go like, so the other guy did all the music, right? I don't have to like this idiot, or some retarded stuff like that. And the third thing is, I did not know that this existed. They have an official public vault where they show you all the content that you can no longer access. I didn't know that was a real thing.
Destiny content vault?
Yeah, I thought that was just like a term that people used for obviously vaulted content you can't access anymore. I didn't realize there was a public resource where you could go and look at all the content that has been vaulted.
Oh yeah,
small.
Yeah.
Wow.
I mean, the DCP has been around for years now, and that was one of the main reasons why Bungie got hit with a class action lawsuit like a year or two ago.
Yeah, I knew all about that. I just didn't know that this was documented like that.
Blundering themselves because
that was funny because they couldn't access the content themselves in the proceedings, and that pretty much nuked the whole case. But that's where my head's at. Daniel, Destiny 2 is officially dying.
Yep.
Tell me all about it.
Yep. Okay, so I have notes on this.
Go for it.
I'm sure you would understand.
Of course.
I am first going to read the blog post of how they delivered this news.
Go for it.
It's not that long, but I'm going to read it verbatim because I think it's a very important context for the conversation we're about to have. So this was posted on May 21st, so 3 days ago at the time of this recording, and it is titled, Destiny 2, Every End is a New Beginning. For almost 12 years, we have had the joy and honor to explore the Destiny universe with you all. Through all the ups and downs, surprises and triumphs, building Destiny alongside our players has been a monumental privilege. While our love for Destiny 2 has not changed, it has become clear that after the final shape, we have reached the time for our shared world and Destiny to live beyond Destiny 2. As our focus turns towards a new beginning for Bungie, we will begin work incubating our next games, plural. To that end, on June 9th, 2026, we will release a final live service content update for Destiny 2 to begin that new journey as a studio. Though active development may be concluding, we will ensure that Destiny 2 remains playable just as the original Destiny is today. Many changes in this final update will aim to ensure that Destiny 2 is a welcoming place for players to return to. We're proud of Destiny 2, the places it took us, and the legacy it has created. Because of you all, our universe is vast, built on years of shared stories, adventures, and victories. From the Cosmodrome to the Pale Heart to the Lawless Frontier, we have forged lifelong memories and friendships with you all. We are incredibly grateful to everyone who made that journey with us. From the deepest parts of our hearts, thank you, and we'll see you in the stars. So that is how Bungie broke the news to the community that Destiny 2 will no longer be getting any live service content updates, effectively killing the game.
Yes.
Now, granted, it's not going to be dead to the point where you just can't access it anymore, because Destiny 1 is still around. You can still go and play that whenever you want. This is going to be the same exact thing. But it's effectively dead because they're not getting any more content updates. The story is going nowhere, even though it was kind of going nowhere after the final shape anyway, at least that nobody really cared about.
Yeah.
But it was really just the way that they did this. So now that I read the blog post, let me bring up my notes, because there was no possible way I could remember all of this. So let me preface this by saying this. One of my first reactions was that Destiny 2 ending live service support is ultimately a good thing, at least to an extent. Now, I wrote this down. I typed this out in my note file before I learned the fact that Sony and Bungie are 100% absolutely not in development on a Destiny 3. After that, I just got fucking angry.
Oh, boy.
Yeah. Like, and it's for multiple reasons. Like, one, the way that they ended support for the game was just baffling. It was essentially like a rug pull. Everyone thought that they were going to come out with this big update in June, and then they were going to reassess and go from there. And then that's just how they were going to do it. Like, there was some speculation here and there that maybe they would just turn off Destiny 2 so they can begin working on D3, because there was just no way that they could do both, between supporting Destiny 2 and continue to give it live updates and begin work on a brand new game that was going to absolutely need a new engine, and just built from the ground up, brand new, because the Tiger engine is just way too old to bring into a new generation of anything. So, well, first of all, Sony hasn't greenlit anything that Bungie has pitched or had an idea of.
That's something I had actually heard, because obviously a lot of people kind of went your route with this. The second they heard this, is like, just make a Destiny 3. There's been petitions and all that. Well,
that was like the common sense, natural thing to assume.
That's what everybody seemed. That was their first pivot point. And my understanding is, what insiders are saying, and you already kind of said it, is that they're basically not greenlighting anything from Bungie, and this includes Destiny-related potential spin-offs or follow-ups and things like that. Nothing's getting greenlit right now.
Yep. So, yeah, I mean, I heard that, and I was just like, I was kind of in awe, because I know I'm I was a huge Destiny fan. Like, I still really love the IP, but just not what Destiny has become post-Final Shape, but that's neither here nor there anymore. So it was just kind of like baffling. After they put up this blog post, a bunch of news started coming out, like from the moment that the blog post went up to like 28 to 48 hours after that. Apparently, one of those things was that the vast majority of Bungie staff, whether it's developers or PR or whoever, they found out about this from the public announcement, which is equally as crazy. Now, if they would have told the development team, it would have been leaked. So, like, I kind of understand why that had to happen. Yeah. Like, it absolutely would have been leaked. There's no doubt about that in my mind.
Not only would it have been leaked, but like the current situation that Bungie's in, I'm sure that while obviously they knew well in advance they were going to make this decision, the higher ups, that is, obviously this whole thing's been very touch and go and dependent on performance, because we are that deep into this death spiral that is Bungie.
Yeah. So Bungie themselves didn't know this was going on. Apparently, this decision was made like a year ago, and they still let the development team create new content for the game for like the next year. Which, I mean, everything about this is just so fucking dirty. I've lost my fucking place. God damn it. Okay, I think a really important thing to highlight here as well is that I do not believe that this is Marathon's fault. I think that it didn't help. Like Bungie making Marathon definitely didn't help the overall sentiment towards the Destiny IP and it getting content and everything. Sure, but I also don't think that. I think this was going to happen one way or the other.
It could have been any game in Marathon's spot. They were just waiting for Bungie to have another project to be on in order to, pull the plug on Destiny.
Yeah. So this is definitely not Marathon's fault. Now, most of the devs that have been working on Destiny for its entire lifespan, they were already moved over to Marathon, and that's including the fact that. I don't think it happened just yet, but the reports have been coming out that Bungie is absolutely going to be laying off like a ton of developers from the Destiny team, which is to be expected. And like, people are flipping out over that, but if there's nothing for them to do, then they can't work. Like it doesn't. We talk a lot about layoffs and how development studios are run here. Whenever the internet overall gets wind of the fact that there's going to be layoffs, it's always like grab your torches and pitchforks, and that's never the right idea. Which, like, you can't fucking have it both ways, Like, if people, if a game doesn't have, if it's going nowhere or it's shut down and there's nothing for these employees to do, like, why would you keep on paying them? That being said, like, you would think you'd want all hands on deck developing Marathon because it's not where it needs to be right now by a long shot. To the point where like they're discussing adding PvE only modes, which defeats the whole fucking purpose of an extraction shooter. So yeah, this is definitely not Marathon's fault. It absolutely didn't help, but it's definitely not Marathon's fault that Destiny 2 is effectively shutting down. That being said, Bungie absolutely could have handled this way better than they did. Now, I don't know what that would have looked like, but just the rug pull just feels cheap.
I mean, my whole thing is like, I can sympathize a little bit, right, with like how
of course
how chips kind of landed on the table, but at the same time, like my first and foremost thought is like, we've been the both of us have been in situations where like we've been at places working where we know like things are really bad and there's kind of just this air of like some hammer is going to drop soon and that kind of thing, but it's just like the point is like things got bad to the point where such a hammer needed to drop anyway. And so it's just like, well, I have sympathy with the rug pulling kind of thing. Like at a certain point, it gets to this level where like higher ups will completely screw you only when, I mean, I feel like it's been 6 years of a downfall for Bungie. I feel like things have gotten
absolutely not.
Yeah.
No. Well, for Bungie as a studio,
yeah.
What's your starting point there?
My starting point is when they changed their hiring practices in 2021, which was spurred on by events that took place in 2020. Basically what I'm asserting is not necessarily, but and obviously you're going to tell me how it felt playing the game through this period of time. I'm basically saying that internal politics and hiring practices and the things that ultimately led to these dominoes falling started around 2020, 2021, and I would probably say, based on you and Luke and all the other people I knew that played Destiny, things didn't necessarily start reflecting in the game until maybe 2 years after that, maybe 2022.
That's exactly what I was going to say.
Okay.
The things started going downhill about 2022, not counting the Final Shape, which was one of the best expansions that we got for the game.
Okay.
But yes, you would be accurate in that, which probably means that you are ultimately right, because the people that they hire aren't going to start putting shit into the game that the players are going to see until like a year or two later. So, okay, yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Oh, okay, which is something else on my list of notes here. The woke bullshit didn't help a fucking thing.
Well,
now, I don't know what was going on behind the scenes at Bungie. Obviously, I have no clue. But something as simple as putting their fucking pronouns in their Vi docs every goddamn time for like years. Like that is a form of writing on the wall, and those people are making the game, which obviously means that something is going to be put in the fucking game meant as an influence or what. Like it's going to have a ripple effect is my point.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it, because I mean that's typically how I put it too, where it's like if you mention things like, pronouns in the thing, or how they talk about certain ways or certain initiatives, because I know they had like everything under the sun. Like I know they had like women at Bungie and trans at Bungie or whatever the fuck. They had all these different things, and people would immediately jump down your throat and say, "Why does it matter to you?" And you put it the way that I typically put it, where it's just like, if this is the thought process behind these things, and they're at the activist level where they're prioritizing it as opposed to other things where those things tend to run like clockwork year over year and month over month, but everything in the game starts to falter or get delayed or change in quality. It has an effect, because that's where they're hiring these people for a specific reason. I think that, what was it? I think 2021, and you can learn me if I'm wrong about this, I think 2021 is when they actually started hiring people into positions to push this kind of stuff or to work around that, because I think they had a D&I, diversity and inclusion director and people's officer, and that affected the hiring practices, and that's around the time where they started, you started telling me about like the different things where it's just like, oh, they, they introduce themselves, they have the pronouns on the screen, and that's, on its face, not necessarily a bad thing. It's unnecessary on its face, I would say, but that typically reflects on the kind of structure that goes in there. And then you factor in, the layoffs, the back and forth. I kind of describe it as a sloshing, because now you're changing how you're hiring. You're going for quotas, like we need to have X amount of women, X amount of this or that, and they're not doing merit. And, you lose people along the way, slosh back and forth. And that's where my head's at. That's why I mentioned the timeline that I did,
As far as I can tell, because I've watched every Bungie VOD that they've put out for Destiny 2 as they came out. Like, I was following the game very closely. I wanted to know about all the new content. Like, naturally, I was going to watch everything that Bungie was going to put out to promote the game. As far as I could tell, there was one person that was probably the reason for them including the pronouns in the Vidocs. There was one fucking person. Everybody else looked like the gender that they were, and the pronouns in the title card for their names fucking matched. There was one person that actually had to use like very specific pronouns, because that's just, so as far as I can tell, they did that to not hurt this person's feelings. Like, I don't know. But the point being is that the woke bullshit didn't fucking help anything.
That
absolutely had to have had an influence.
What I would say is, I know at a certain point you had like narrative designers that were working. They were like speaking up during the whole Sweet Baby Inc. nonsense that got. Remember when we were talking about consultation companies, and they're just like, get over it, grow up if you don't like consultation. I know there were people in Bungie that were saying that. I know that, I forget the exact nature, because I don't want to shit on the corpse that's directly in front of us, but like, me, Destiny stuff, it kind of goes in one ear and out the other. I know when we were trying some game like a year and a half, maybe 2 years ago, I mentioned that I heard a story about someone writing in their private blog or something that they finally got into a position at Bungie where they could influence the writing, and that's where you got the Osiris Saint 14 plot line. That was like, that's the kind of thing.
Which
I
went
mentioned
fucking nowhere, by the way.
Well, but here's the thing, Dan. The reason I bring up that anecdote, that example, is because that's a clear example where we know the person who wrote that, they didn't have somewhere to go with it. They just had a message they want to push, and that's that's why we bring up all this stuff to begin with, is because there are people in there that have priorities that aren't the story, the gameplay, you, the customer, the best experience possible. They just have something to push, or something to, write, or they want brownie points or something. Everybody at a different level wants something out of this kind of cultural exchange. The higher ups want people off their back. They want to look good. The people below them, they want to hire people for different quotas. And then when they get in there, they don't mesh. And it's not like, it's not a way to run a business. So I think, go ahead.
I think it's like, I agree with everything that you're saying. Don't get me wrong. However, I don't think that them hiring, these LGBTQ people was like a driving factor behind the downfall of this game.
So to specify real quick one more time, when I that's the most obvious thing that I can point to. I'm talking about the hiring practices as a whole, because at a certain point Bungie did have an aspect of hiring, not just, gay people or trans people, whatever. They had quotas to push where it's like, we need a percentage of people in this group. We need a percentage of people in this group, to the point where, like, I think it came up in like some HR lawsuit in 2013 or something, or 2023 or something like that, where there was some kind of settlement or something with HR because the DEI and the DNI hiring practices reached a recognizable point where it's like, if you need 20% of X and you need 20% of Y, you're hiring based off a metric that is outside of merit. So, like, we talk about, like, stuff like the pronouns in there because that points to a thought process, but the thought process affects everything. I'm not saying I'm not sitting here like in my rocking chair going, they hired a bunch of queers and now the game sucks. No, it's a mentality throughout the entire thought process that affects how it runs there. And I bring that up again because it's like, if your hiring practices, if your standards are lower and you're going through layoffs where you're losing people who have been with the company for a decade, again, that slosh back and forth, that's how you end up with that. And there are multiple factors, obviously, I'm sure you're going to get there where I always say it's like you have the activist side, but you also have the dumb corporate thinking side that also runs amok. But that's why I keep bringing it up. It's not strictly because of one particular group ruining everything. That one anecdote, it just happens to be one of the most egregious that I can remember in recent memory, because they say they got him for one reason, they do that reason, they brag about it, and then the game goes nowhere with the reasoning and the change they put in there. But there are a lot of micro little things like that going on in the heads of some of these employees that are hired this way.
It's really death by 1,000 cuts.
Exactly. That's ultimately where it's going to go, because Bungie, the company, and Destiny, the franchise, don't get here overnight because of that, which is why I stressed it took like 2 years for these hiring practices to really cause an issue, and it's not the only issue as far as I can tell. So continue, Mr. War Journal man. Show me what else you got.
I am of the opinion that the primary reason that Destiny was run into the ground the way that it was because of all the decision-making individuals, and the biggest offender of all, and the entire community has been pointing to this. And like, I didn't really hop on this train to begin with, but as time went on, it really became more and more clear. Pete Parsons, like the head of Bungie, the guy that like had the big classic card collection, and people were memeing on him for that, like that guy.
Oh, I've heard his name quite a bit this week.
Yeah, he and I'm sure other people helped him, but he managed to make Bungie appear like they were worth $3.6 billion to Sony, when obviously they were not. Anybody with a fucking brain who is somewhat educated on like Destiny and Bungie could have told you that Bungie was never worth $3.6 billion. That's such a crazy amount of money to pay for a studio with one fucking game. It's like, it's not a GTA, So I think I am of the opinion that is the primary reason why this failed. And then you have Sony come in, take a look at everything that Bungie is doing, all the statistics, all of like the hard data on paper, and say, yeah, this isn't working out, and then made the call to basically kill the game. On top of kill the game, like kill any legacy that it would have had. Like, because I think that obviously Destiny has not had the greatest run in video games. It's a 12 or 13-year-old franchise. Destiny 1 is very fondly remembered, but Destiny 2 is the superior game. Like, I'll die on that hill. It is absolutely the superior game.
As the only thing I'll say about that is, as someone again from the outside, I'm not here to subvert the players. I think Destiny 1 looks and sounds better. That's my only comment. I think it has more artistic merit than Destiny 2 from what I've seen. And that's the only thing I say. I'm like, if you enjoy Destiny 2 more, you think it's the better game, I'm not going to judge. My only opinion is I think 1 is a better presented game.
Better presented, sure, but in like all the different systems, everything that you can do, the way the game itself feels, I don't think the visuals are like a slouch or anything. I still think it's a beautiful game, especially when you're looking at the skyboxes. There's really nothing quite like that in video games. There's nothing quite like Destiny in video games, period. Like, it was the undisputed king of looter shooters for years, to the point where Sony bought the entire studio, wanted them to consult on other live service projects that they had in the works. And after Naughty Dog found out what it took to run a live service game, because they were going to make The Last of Us Factions, they were just like, yeah, we don't want to do that. And they just fucking canceled it. And because even though The Last of Us multiplayer was actually pretty fun, I enjoyed it for what it was worth. But anyway, so this whole situation is just fucked, man. And it's for so many different reasons, but like, you have this core audience of diehard fans that would make you rich beyond belief if you just made the game that they wanted you to make. And we saw this just last year with Battlefield, right? It was the best-selling game of 2026, right? No, 2025.
25.
It was the best-selling game of 2025. And it didn't even do anything special. It took the original Battlefield formula and it put a fresh coat of paint on it. That's all it did. And like, it sold like hotcakes. It's amazing how game companies just either can't or won't learn this lesson. Oh God. Okay, where do I go from here?
Not for nothing. The reason they can't and won't learn the lesson is for the reasons I listed before.
I know. I it's still frustrating. Okay. Because the numbers will show it, you know, like, Ben Battlefield is the perfect example, because it's not doing anything revolutionary. We had all this shit in Battlefield 3 and 4, arguably done to a better standard to begin with. And we just went with, we had a drought for like a classic Battlefield game for so long that when they finally gave us a classic Battlefield experience, it was the greatest selling game of the year that it came out. And it was the best selling game in EA's history. Like, come on. Like, you're going to sit here and tell me that the executives looking at the numbers on paper are going to go to the heads of the studios or whatever it is and say, no, don't make what the gamers have wanted from the beginning. Like, make your own version of this live service slop, because it has the potential to make more money down the line. I don't. I will continue. And you know what? The hack against Rockstar recently that leaked all the financials for GTA Online, it's fucking GTA's fault, okay? Like, the only reason why these companies are chasing the live service dragon so fucking hard is because GTA makes an obscene amount of money on the daily, and everyone wants a piece of that pie. And it just unless you have something truly special and truly spectacular that you are going to happen to turn into a live service game, like, it's just not going to fucking happen. It's just not going to happen. These companies keep on taking these swings and shutting the games down before even like a month or 2 or 3 months is out. Fucking Concord, High Guard, The Last of Us Frontiers died before it even really began. I mean, those are really the big three that come to mind, but still, like, it's so fucking frustrating, man. And now that Destiny is the latest casualty in this, because I can't even give you like a good reason, you know. Like, if they just came out and said, hey, you know, we're going to stop supporting Destiny 2 for now because the next entry in the Destiny franchise is in the works, the community happily would have waited as long as it would take. Like, even at this point, like, if they started working on something right now, it wouldn't be until at least 2030 before we saw anything. And I would wager that the average Destiny fan who like genuinely enjoys the game would be totally fine with that. I started playing Destiny during the D1 beta almost 13 fucking years ago. And from the second I held the controller to, you know, hopping on my Sparrow to shooting a Dreg in the face in the Cosmodrome, like, it was like, that was my game. Like, I was ready, you know, that was very much, it resonated with me very much. Didn't hurt that Bungie just came off of Halo and they're going to make this new, you know, open world-ish, like, shared world first-person shooter that was like blending sci-fi and fantasy, but in a really cool way. And they're going to have these special activities where there's some puzzle-solving skills, but you also need to be concerned about killing all the enemies in the arena and everything. And like, you can't just shoot the boss; you have to do a puzzle while everything in the arena is trying to kill. There's still nothing like that. And now that Destiny is gone, or not gone, but you know, it's dead effectively. I don't. That leaves so in my it leaves a giant hole in the market, and I don't know who would even fill it. No game right now, like I just said, is anything like it, and I don't know what could even come close to supplementing it without ripping off the formula or Bungie just getting their head out of their ass and making a Destiny 3 to begin with. I don't know, man. It's really sad that the way that it all happened, and I know that you never really liked it, and that's fine. You're allowed to have your opinion, but it was a really big part of my own life for a very long time. And like, I'm not trying to get sappy or anything. It's just the fucking truth.
I mean, yeah, like there's nothing wrong with like being like, hey man, this game was really good. I really enjoyed it. In a perfect world, I mean, you'd still be playing it. I just think everything that led, this is going to sound obvious, but everything that led to you no longer having a Destiny to play, without all that, you'd still be happily sitting there playing it. You know, there's nothing wrong with a game running long and supporting players. There's plenty of ventures that, you know, exist out there. Like, you know, I mentioned to you once, I'm like, oh, Final Fantasy 14. It was interesting because like the games that we were into were reaching this point where it's just like, oh, you know, we're ending this massive story. We're going into a new era, so to speak, right? You know, we talk about all that. Meanwhile, Final Fantasy 14 just did a crossover with Final Fantasy 11, which has been around since, you know, it was one of the early, you know, connect your PlayStation 2 to the internet and play MMOs kind of games. And because it received such a swell of support from Final Fantasy 14 doing this crossover with it, that they're discussing potential new changes in content to it. Like, there's nothing wrong with games just lasting and entertaining players for years and years and years. That being said, I encourage people to try multiple games, but there's nothing wrong with a game just running and being good and being, you know, fun and enjoyable. So I get that. I get that aspect.
But Destiny lived and
like,
died off of its new content. It just did.
Yeah,
like, I can only play the same raid over and over over again.
No, what I mean to say, what I'm getting at is like, all I was saying is, you know, there's nothing wrong with you saying like, oh, you know, there was a big part of your gaming career, as you like to say, you know, there's nothing wrong with that. It's on the developers to, you know, continue to cater to you, the player, the core audience, you know, and it's just, to my point is, you know, and every now and again when we would discuss it, and obviously now because it's a big topic, it would always slip in one way or the other where it's just like, Destiny 3, why not just make a Destiny 3, clear the slate, Destiny 3. And I have to, now that we're standing on the grave, I just need to say this again. The cause of everybody saying make a Destiny 3, whether it's just you and me talking about it and you mentioning it, or now all the community is talking about it. I know there's a fucking petition out there where people are just like, just make a Destiny 3.
That petition is fucking pointless.
Yeah, it is pointless. The reason you are in the position to be asking for a Destiny 3, you're essentially relying on the people, everybody from the top down, from leadership to the developers to everybody that pushed the game to the point of death, to all of a sudden just miraculously be able to make a good Destiny 3. You guys are out of your fucking mind. It's not possible. If they were capable of making a good Destiny 3, Destiny 2 would not have died. I need to hit you guys with the hard truth. I know there's a fanciful notion to say like, just make the series good again through a clean slate with a new sequel. If they could do that, you would not be in the position to ask for it. That's all I have to say on that. Like, they can't, the Bungie that made this franchise that you fucking love is gone. It's gone. It's not coming back. They haven't made any adjustments. They're arguably at war with the people that want a good Destiny 3 and don't, and, you know, the people that could make a good Destiny 3 based on the arguments that some of these developers have online and the people that get raked over the coals for calling out the issues. So I have to say it to you and to any Destiny player that's out there that has some kind of hope. Destiny 3 is not the savior. And they can't make a good Destiny 3 for you. At least not right now. Maybe something would change in the future.
So
but you said
Destiny.
No, all I was gonna say to finalize it before you say anything is, you mentioned that it's like, oh, if they make a Destiny 3, it would be years off anyway. We are years off from the team getting together that would make a good Destiny 3.
Not a fucking argument there.
Yeah.
Oh god, I got so much shit fucking racing through my head right now.
Hit me with it.
So I agree with you in the fact that Bungie is not the Bungie that made Destiny 2 so good to begin with. Like, the Bungie now is not the same company it was before that
Yep.
made me fall in love with the game overall. Like, that, obviously, fucking duh, right? However, Destiny 3 was in fact pitched to the Bungie higher-ups years before this ever happened. So, like, it could have been a thing. It absolutely could have been a thing. But for whatever reason, it was not given the green light. And who knows why. Like, obviously they knew they were going to be making Marathon at the time, and then whatever future content they had planned for Destiny 2. And then I also think a huge factor in this is the fact that once the final shape came and went, everyone that was playing this game for 10 years, the story was wrapped up. It came to a very satisfying conclusion, and the people that stuck with it for so long, they just fucking left. Like, that was it. It was a wrap. And you know what? That's fine. That's okay. You know what happens when you beat a game? You play a different fucking game. Like, this was all very avoidable.
Mm-hmm.
But if it didn't happen this way, we still would have just been treading water. Like, I'm not delusional, Anthony.
I'm not calling you delusional, but I have to wonder what makes Destiny so different that, you know, a situation where it's like the story ends after 10 years. Why is Destiny one of the few examples of people just packing up and leaving when there do exist other games that either hit end of service altogether or, you know, have a bookmark a chapter like a similar 10-year run?
It was the kind of game that Destiny was. It wasn't really an MMO, but the phrase that Bungie coined, the shared world shooter, with how they built it and how it was played there, it was just an intoxicating game to play with, like a raid party, for example. There was nothing else like it on the market. There's still nothing else like it on the market. And I keep on coming back to that because that's what made the game so great in the first place to the people who played it.
No, I listen, I completely agree, because, like, the one thing I've always said to you is, regardless of my own personal opinions on Destiny, is, like, I appreciate the fact that there is nothing really quite like it as far as a shooter that plays that in that shared world experience that is MMO light, almost, to a certain degree. But my question is, like, you know, obviously it's a tough thing to get over when a story comes to a close and they're opening a new chapter. That's a hard landing to stick. You know, I have my own complaints with where Final Fantasy 14 is going, how that first expansion, you heard me bitch about it already. But, like, I just, the reason I harp on this is because I do think that while that is a tough thing to surmount, and while it is kind of hard to please people, you know, after that it's a hard landing to stick. What makes it, like, so different, not in a gameplay stance or in an offering? Why is it other games that may be even more complex, like MMOs, manage to retain an audience compared to Destiny post those kind of things, and even in worse situations where they are at end of service, the lights are just on, it's in maintenance mode, it's not getting new content, but
It's
people are still going back to it?
because the game was so much fun. And even more so when you were playing with friends. I was a solo player for years, and then I found a clan that I vibed with.
Yeah.
And then once that happened, like, then my Destiny obsession really took off.
Yes.
It's not any one thing. It's not, like, you know, Destiny 3, just the name wouldn't solve the problem alone. Like, they need to do something completely new, but maintain the same feel of the game and how it's played.
Yes, no, I completely agree with that. The point I'm getting at, in case I'm not making any sense here, is because, like I said, like, there are other games that manage to stick that landing and retain an audience, and you obviously, you rightly mentioned that there are other reasons that people left from it, but you mentioned that it's just like you think that a lot of the players just moved on and left. And my kind of pushback against that is, like, if the game didn't fucking suck, I think they would have stuck around, you know, because there are other situations where games have done these closed chapter kind of things where it's like 10 years of a story, it wraps.
It only started to suck because after the final shape, they didn't really have a direction to go. They were trying to make the game live on after they put a bow on it. Like, it didn't make any sense.
Yeah.
Like,
And
you know,
yeah,
when you're playing a game in a first-person perspective, like you're a lot closer to everything that's going on than. This is for me. Like when I was playing WoW
Yeah.
all those years ago, I felt nothing. It was a very disconnected feeling for me. Like I just didn't find it engaging at all. And I think the first-person perspective really helped with that.
Although I will push back and say you could actually play World of Warcraft in the first person if you really wanted to. You zoom that camera all the way in.
I have no idea. I don't know.
I'm not going to stump for WoW here because I think WoW has been in a very terrible place where it should be in Destiny's position where it's dying. Although the unfortunate reality is when we bring up WoW as an example is part of the reason that WoW has lasted so long compared to other games that have shut down is because there are not many games like it, and in the case where there are games that are like it because they did popularize the theme park MMO, so to speak, that the formula that a lot of diehards don't particularly care for. They were one of the first ones to do it, similar to how Destiny is really the first and only one to really do that live service space. And the reason I bring this up is not to like, poo-poo on your dreams and hopes for like a better tomorrow with Destiny, because I do think, despite as dour as things are, while I think it's unlikely, in a pie in the sky hope kind of thing, they could get a team together and make a good Destiny 3. I just don't think that the higher ups are invested in it.
Right,
and
so
I
that's
don't think
another
the team is there for it.
That's another reason for this. Like another reason why it failed so spectacularly was because the company, like at a corporate level, just wasn't in it. They just weren't. Like they were ready to move on, and then that trickled down and destroyed everything.
Yeah, that's definitely part of it. I guess this is all to say, and the reason I harp on that altogether is just because I've heard you mention it, and I do think it's a big part of it, and I've heard it said before, obviously, and obviously I've said plenty of times it is a hard thing to get over, but I don't think the final shape putting an end to the story content and not having somewhere to go, I don't think that is as big a factor as some of the other things. That's I guess that's all I really wanted. That coupled with my opinion on like the prospects for Destiny 3, like typically as the conversation goes, I say I don't think they could make it, and then it gets brought up that the Destiny 2 ending kind of hurts it. I don't really think those two necessarily correlate. I think that the core issues would still kind of remain, and that's the big problem.
Yes and no. I mean, honestly, I would love to get into this more. We literally do not have the time. So, God, yeah. I mean, we can go on and on and on with this. We should just move on because yeah. I mean, we're just going to be going back and forth. Anyway, Destiny 2 is done.
Arguably, the IP might be done too.
Yeah, arguably, the IP might. Honestly, a fucking sorry would be nice.
No, I need to listen. I just need to hammer this home. Not that I don't feel for you, but it needs to be
I'm
said.
not an idiot, Anthony. Like
I'm not saying
all the points that you've been making, they are correct. All right, like I get that. It's fine. It just the way that this was handled and the abruptness that it was delivered, it just fucking stung, man.
Yeah, no, I agree.
Just stunk because look, I haven't. When was the last time I played Destiny? The last time I played Destiny 2 was December 11th of 25. Like I haven't played it in quite a long time, and with the final content update coming on June 9th, I am 100% gonna reinstall it, play whatever they are gonna put out one last time, and then never look back. Like just for myself, for like my own peace of mind, I guess, like I'm gonna play it one more time and then I'm gonna be done with the game forever, which is genuinely not how I thought that it would end. But it is what it is. Here we are.
The interesting thing to me, and the reason I said the series as a whole is because even that venture with what is it, Rising? Is it called Destiny Rising?
Yeah,
the mobile one. I think what did I post the other day? It's like their revenue dropped like 90%. Like nobody's invested in that. I don't know what happened there because I have no idea. The content offerings were pretty good. But yeah, I mean, it's weird, man. I do think that the unfortunate reality with Destiny is that one of the things that kind of cemented this, we talked up and down about all the issues and we briefly touched on it, is I think the existence of Marathon, while not a direct cause, not a direct necessity to kill Destiny, the current position that Sony and Bungie are in kind of helped,
Oh
basically
yeah,
like it did well enough
yeah.
where they were willing to pull the plug. And I think I
And
said how. Go ahead.
there's a lot of animosity ever
I mean, I can
since
imagine.
ever since a marathon was revealed to be an extraction shooter. 'Cause
Hmm.
everyone thought it was going to be kind of in the same vein as Destiny, maybe like just something, like it. No one before they said what it was, no one really assumed that it was going to be an extraction shooter of all things, especially when the genre is already very saturated as it is,
Hmm.
and like for them to hope to compete with Escape from Tarkov or Arc Raiders, both of those things being at two polar opposite ends of the fucking spectrum, like is borderline delusional for Bungie, in my opinion.
Yeah, it's just I think the existence of Marathon just to let them cut the cord, so to speak,
Yeah, yeah,
and
absolutely.
I don't think Marathon did all that well to begin with, but it did
No, it
well
didn't.
enough in their eyes where they see it as a better platform to move forward.
I
Which
don't even think it did well enough in their eyes. I honestly think that Sony can't afford to lose face again with another
yes,
live service game.
I
On top of the fact that it's from Bungie, one of their flagships, like it'd just be
yeah.
so remarkably embarrassing.
I should rephrase what I said. When I said did well enough in their eyes, not in the way that they wanted to, but well enough to choose it over Destiny, I guess. Because I think I said however many episodes, I don't see a future where Bungie and Sony support both side by side for long. If one really outpaces the other, they're just not in the position to do so. And I
Yeah,
think
and they
that's
didn't.
just the end result. So, as interesting or as nice as it would have been to see, but once again, while it's not for me, I appreciate the slot it fills. Similar to Ultima Online, which I think has been running since the late '90s, or EverQuest, or RuneScape, or Final Fantasy 11, or Eve Online, or any of those ones where it's just retains its player base and just updates
Hmm.
and pleases that audience.
Yeah.
It's just wrong place, wrong time, alongside the decline that we spent however long talking about.
Yeah, the last thing that I'll say, and we really do need to move on,
Mm.
is I think that the ultimate root cause of all this was absolute piss poor mismanagement. It
Oh
just
yeah,
it
because
couldn't have
everything
been
can be
any
traced
worse.
back to that. Yeah,
Yeah,
because
yeah,
all the bad decisions that we talked about, at the end of the day, somebody is making the calls to make those bad decisions.
yeah,
So, or the
yeah.
lack
So
thereof, and just letting everybody
Destiny
go nuts.
2, one of my favorite games of all time. It like the final nail was just put into the coffin, and even though it will remain playable, no Destiny fan is really going to be like on it the way that they were. It's just not. It's done.
What's the player numbers
So
for Destiny 1? Because my understanding is people play the shit out of Destiny 1, a
in
reasonable
oh,
amount
I've
anyway.
no idea. It's not on Steam. I can't even give you like a little bit of
Mm.
a thermometer there.
Does Destiny 1
Um,
have like a lower amount of vaulted content than Destiny 2? What's the spread there?
I don't know if they vaulted anything. I think they just kept on adding to it. The
Yeah.
DCV didn't exist until D2.
I mean, that is kind of like a small blessing, Destiny 1 as a complete package is still out there for anyone to go pick up and play. That
Yeah.
is nice.
And right now, Destiny 2 has 17,000 players in game, which has been higher than the average so far. And conversely, Marathon has 10,000
Hmm.
right now. So
Everybody's showing up to the wake, I guess.
yeah, yeah. I'm very, very curious to see what the player numbers are going to be on June 9th. So anyway, that was
Yep.
the Destiny news for the week, and probably the last bit of news for a long time,
Yeah.
unless more bullshit comes out. So
Yep.
onward. We only really have time for like a handful of other topics.
All
So
right. So,
I'm gonna let you pick and choose because this was my gigantic thing for the
let
week,
me
obviously.
let me take a look because I kind of knew this is where it was going to go.
Yeah.
I'm going to lead with the very next thing on the list just because
Okay.
I have more to say on that because where is it? Let me just grab the thing. I had it written out. Where the fuck are you? Okay.
This
Yeah.
is
So
we're definitely gonna have some disagreements here also.
what about Ubisoft?
Well, no, maybe not about Ubisoft as a company.
Okay, yeah, because I know where you're going with this.
Yeah.
Okay, I just picked up. So, just we'll talk about Ubisoft and Assassin's Creed Resynced, and then that'll probably be the only thing we have time for if
Yeah.
you're gonna have some pushback for me. So, Ubisoft posted their official earnings report for the fiscal year ending in March 2026. So, if anyone's unclear, March 2025. Or I'm sorry, April 1st, 2025 to the end of March 2026. That's how it runs. I'm pretty sure, right?
I have no idea.
Yeah, so It is. They've set a new record for themselves. They lost $1.4 billion in operating. Yeah, brand new record for the company, and their stock's never been lower. It's a fucking nightmare over there. They are blaming this on the transitionary period. If you remember, we talked about the creative houses, how they're going to branch, they're going to split up development and chop it up, and they have the different creative houses. If you remember any of that, we kind of touched on it at one point. When Shadows was fairly new.
I remember.
They're blaming transitioning into that structure, and they also said that it's a mix of. They also blame it on a mix of light release schedule and the multiple cancellations, which in turn leads to a light release schedule. I personally think that the latter comes into play more than the former. I do think it's not releasing games. That certainly hurts. I also think they're ignoring things like AAA bloat, which everybody deals with. And the main fact for me is that when they get these games out the door, they kind of just suck. They're not as good as the games that came before them. They're not as good as the Ubisoft standard of like the decades past or anything like that. The only high profile release I can think of recently is Shadows, and as much as I would love to just continually dunk on Assassin's Creed Shadows because it certainly didn't perform where they needed to, can't blame it on the fiscal year we're discussing. That's next year's problem, or the months. We already talked about certain months where they kind of had issues, but if I want to talk shit about Shadows, I'm going to have to wait a year before I can shit on Shadows. And trust me, I will be shitting on Shadows at some point. But so they're kind of in a position where they're in a bit of a funk. There's a lot of things that haven't been canceled that they want to toy with. I'm pretty sure they still want to do something with Splinter Cell, even though they've juggled exactly what they want to do with that. Far Cry, I'm sure there's a new one right around the corner and that kind of stuff. I think 7 is like they're at the point where 7 is starting to leak a little bit, and we know it's coming. But Dan, their current ace in the hole, one of their break glass in case of emergencies, is the remake of Assassin's Creed Black Flag, which we've talked a little bit about during First Impressions. And since then, I don't know how much you've seen, but I've seen quite a bit about the new
I probably haven't
remaster.
seen nearly as much as you. I've seen some videos here and there, but I'm not like going out of my way to dig into what the differences are, to be perfectly honest.
So me, I like to wait and see things. I had my complaints and speculation about how the different focuses on development compared to like the previous focuses on development, that being like we're trying to work within the confines of the hardware and pushing the hardware to the now of like we're just going to slap all these newer assets and our newer standards onto older assets and stuff like that. And just having seen it, there's a couple things I can kind of pick up on. It's not like what's the best way to put this, like when I see something like Dead Rising, right? And I see Dead Rising Deluxe Remaster, I had that clocked from the fucking jump because I love Dead Rising. I love Dead Rising. I can see and hear what looks wrong because that's just my game. I could do the same for the Jack games, probably. I could do the same for some of the Resident Evils, some of the Final Fantasies. That's the stuff I know. Black Flag, not so much. The only thing I was able to pick up on at a glance is the things we just talked about with like the different, design focuses, and also something that I noted, the weight in the movement, because that's something that you just feel right away. Honestly, it feels very light, like going into it now. Like I remember the old Assassin's
that's
Creed
actually
games.
been a pretty common complaint with like all the people previewing it.
Yeah, the Assassin's Creed games, especially 1 through 4, and maybe even like Unity afterwards, there was weight in how like you moved, you jumped, you fought, everything felt good. And weight is good to a certain point. AAA weight, like the way that they get in like Grand Theft Auto or Red Dead Redemption, that's like artificial and it affects how you turn.
Yeah, I hated that in Red Dead.
Yeah, that sucks. But like Assassin's Creed had it just good where it like felt good to move or loiter, even like there were points in the older Assassin's Creed game where it's just like, I'm gonna collect some stuff on the side so I can get some good stuff, and it's just like it doesn't look that way at all in Black Flag. And you're mentioning that some of the previewers are saying it doesn't feel that way, right?
Yeah,
that's a big nasty red flag for me.
And I'm not even saying like the previewers from like the big outlets like IGN or GameSpot. I'm talking about like not independent YouTubers, but like just
mid-level
not
stuff.
Someone part of the mainstream, which I would obviously trust more than a gigantic mainstream
I think I
outlet.
give a fuck what IGN says about
I know,
this
yeah.
has to be Black Flag. Come on now. Yeah, so it's like the weight, that's a big thing for me because that's something you're going to feel throughout the entire game. Me and a lot of other people, and even you, everybody was kind of concerned about like RPG elements. Do we want to, how much RPG
Oh yeah, that
elements?
was a huge concern for me.
And my whole thing is, as far as I can tell, they're keeping the equipment the way it was. You know, I know some people are up in arms because it's like their stats and the equipment. I'm like, it's no more than it. As far as I can tell right now, from what they've shown us, it's no more than it was in the original. Because Assassin's Creed 2 introduced like different stat values. So it's like armor and health go up, or damage goes up slightly.
I don't
Very
remember that at all.
basic stuff.
I haven't played Assassin's Creed in probably over a decade, to be honest with you. And then even because I know in the past on the show I've said that the last one that I really played like from beginning to end was Black Flag, but even then it was so long ago. The only thing that I genuinely remember was the fact that one, I played the game, and two, I enjoyed it. That's what I remember.
That's not bad. That's not terrible. That's like a step away from terrible, but it's not inherently terrible.
Look, your
but
memory is fucking impeccable somehow. All right, mine is just not.
Oh my god!
And it's been a long ass time since Black Flag, the original, was in its heyday.
To kind of give you a refresher, 2, Brotherhood, Revelations, 3, 4, and for a little more onwards, there was very light RPG elements, as in like you go and you'll like craft better armor. It was like kind of like Far Cry 3's system.
I remember that. Yes.
Yes.
It was all
There's
very basic.
Very basic. It wasn't like hit deflection and like like the kind of stuff you would see in like a modern Assassin's Creed, right? It was just armor gave you better armor and health, weapons gave you better physical damage or better parry ability, or in some cases like you have a holster, so now you can fire more guns, stuff like that, right? The one thing, while everybody's sitting there bitching about it, like because some people were like you and couldn't even remember there were light RPG elements in Black Flag, I'm sitting there going, the UI looks like shit. The UI in Assassin's Creed was never phenomenal. There were very sluggish menus. It was very murky and hard to read and wasn't that good looking. Still better than like the modern day everything needs to be in a square or a diamond. Everything needs to look like Destiny or God of War, that kind of like UI nonsense. I can't fucking stand it. So that's another knock against it for me. The new cutscenes that they're doing look very robotic and bad, so that's something that reflects in it. The gameplay, as far as I can tell, they've dialed back the visual noise. They've dialed back the slowdown on some of the parries, but like some of that RPG shit is starting to sneak its way in. Like I'm seeing hunting segments which used to be like, oh, you can just quickly kill an animal because they're not putting up a fight like a human. Those are turning into like RPG fights. I saw somebody compare it to Dark Souls, where you're fighting like a boar and you have to roll out of the way and the health bar's up there. I'm like, that does not feel like the old Assassin's Creed games. I know that there were limited health pools and degrees and stuff like that for fighting enemies, but I don't remember hunting looking or feeling like this. So already you're starting to like lose me a little bit. So I guess overall,
what have you heard or seen or done your research in or whatever,
Okay.
blah, 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 about the voice acting?
So my understanding with the voice acting is that they got the original guy that did Kenway back.
Matt
So
Ryan,
that's
I think.
yeah, that's a good thing in my book. I haven't really heard too much in the way of voice acting. But the one caveat I'll add is I don't really listen too much to what people have to say. I'm visually taking in a lot of stuff. Like I saw like a parkour demonstration, I saw like a combat demonstration, I saw a handful of things, but I haven't really tuned in too much to listening to what people say.
Yeah, so the voice acting overall seemed fine. It was the writing that was like a little weird.
Yeah.
Like some of the things that Edward would say during like an exchange or something with like say Anne Bonny, for example, just didn't seem like what Edward Kenway would say. Like it was very watered down almost, which is a weird well, no, not even like not in today's day and age. That's actually not surprising at all now that I think about it. Yeah, that was something that I took note of. That was kind of a knock for me. So I just wanted to.
Yeah, that's fine. I mean, the closest thing I mentioned is like some of the cutscenes look very like robotic, like they look like they're ripped from a Dragon Age: The Veilguard, where it's like everything's awkward and stilted in how they move. Like the only thing I can say is some of the faces look better in how they articulate. I think I mentioned that the first time, but that's really it. One of my gripes popped up obviously is there's censorship in there. I really don't know how to say it any more plainly than ever. I mentioned like the female prostitutes look very frumpy. One of the major characters that we were just talking about, they adjusted her outfit so she's showing less. Her face looks more mannish. I really just don't like. I saw like arguments about this where someone's like, well, I can still see her boobs, so it's okay. And it's like, the same kind of people online that just they downplay fucking everything. It's like, it doesn't matter how titillated you or I are. It doesn't matter what we personally feel about it. Is it different? It's different. Like, I can't express this enough. It doesn't matter what your personal threshold in all this is, whether it's something that you like or dislike, or if it's something that, is good or bad, or does it reflect the times it was in, or doesn't reflect the times it's different, and it's different for an obvious reason. You're going through all the effort, you're talking to me about, Edward Kenway's robes and how they're fine-tuned and the cloth looks just accurate. Look how perfect he fucking looks. Look through all the hoops we jumped through. We got the original voice actor. We updated everything perfectly. And then you go to another character and she's just objectively, she's just different for no reason. We'll put it that way. And so I can point to that and say, it's obvious it's censorship. I don't care what the people on Twitter fucking say. I don't care what the people who just consume anything with an Ubisoft logo on it says, or people who are doing the whole Ubisoft is so back, man. They're remaking the best game ever.
No, they are not.
Yes, exactly.
Please.
So it's like, I have a whole host of issues with Assassin's Creed Black Flag Resynced. I don't think it looks promising, or at least that it doesn't look like enough is changing in a positive light where even if I was like willing to give it a shot, I would spend money on it. I don't think it's worth that money.
This is where you and I kind of disagree a little bit, because I think it at the very least looks fun. I think it looks. Well, I was watching a gameplay preview. I think it was yesterday or the day before. I do still think that, like, when Edward's running around the open world on the beach or on the ship or whatever, I think, like, graphically the game looks beautiful. Now, atmospherically, that's a different story. Like, you look at a screenshot side by side, the original Black Flag is clearly more atmospheric. But, I mean, granted, like a game that's coming out in 2026 versus something that was... When was Black Flag? Was it 2013?
I want to say 2013, 2014, maybe the latest.
13 years ago. But like, obviously, the brand new game is going to look photorealistically more impressive. I mean, that's just me. The combat itself seemed a little heavy-handed in the telegraphing of certain things. Like, that was it was a bit much. Like, anytime two swords fucking make any kind of contact, like there's this giant spark fireball. Yeah. Why is that there? And you are definitely more of a harsher critic than I am, but that's good. I think that's why we like doing this so much. Like the difference between you and I, as far as like our critical perspective, is really good. I'm planning on playing it. Like I'm still looking forward to it, relatively speaking. But everything that you just said, like, since we started talking about this, that's still accurate. Like, both things can be true at the same time.
Yeah, and I think to your credit, I would say I do think that you actually do. It's not like you don't have taste or anything like that, or you don't have standards. Like, obviously you do.
Oh, thank goodness.
I think that. And you said it yourself. I think it's purely from the fact that you mentioned right at the beginning. It's just like, you remember you played it, you remember you liked it, you don't remember a goddamn thing else about it.
Yeah, that's fair. So, and you know what? I'm trying to not be biased here, because like when they announced that Black Flag was coming out, like the only thing that I could think of in my head was, oh, that was the last Assassin's Creed game that I really played, that I really enjoyed. Like, I'm already looking forward to it, and even though I haven't seen anything about it.
Well, that's the thing. Like, I would say, like, if we had to attribute pure malice to this company, they would be relying on your forgetfulness and your ignorance to hoodwink you, so to speak.
Right.
So I don't. Yeah. So it's what I would basically is, like, I have a lot of gripes about it. And that, you say, I'm a hard ass for this. I can acknowledge that. But at the same time, a lot of the issues I bring up with it, unrelated to things like, I think the UI is an objective downgrade. I think the censorship is unforgivable, regardless of how slight people online, that don't care about these things tend to say. That to the point they care so little about it that they'll defend it ad nauseum. Those people, the people that claim that they care about preservation and things like that. You just the absolute worst to get on the wrong side of this issue. There are objective things that I think are wrong with it. A lot of the critiques I have about it are things where I think like you have leniency to try those things in a remake and a remaster. They're just falling short. Like, I've mentioned the atmosphere up and down. I think there's a new, like with these newer graphics, you can try and pull something off. They're just not doing it. I think that, older games can learn from the newer ones when it comes to certain gameplay aspects, but you still need to be satisfying in a way that's true to it. Like I mentioned before when I was ranting about Devil May Cry, I'm like, you could do a Devil May Cry 3 remake with the style switching, with the weapon, the expanded weapon, arsenal all at once. You can try those things. The execution still needs to be good, and that's ultimately my complaint. Aside from the glaring obvious things, which I can't forgive, is that the execution of this remake, it feels like it's just not where it needs to be to justify its existence. That's all.
Still gonna sell like crazy.
I mean, here's the thing: the amount of money that they need to make back, it's a threshold that they don't reach as often. And ultimately, in the long run, it's not like if this is a bad remake, I can't preemptively say it doesn't look great to me. If it's a bad remake, it's just another reputational hit. And you may say, Anthony, their reputation doesn't matter.
People said that. It absolutely does.
Well, yeah,
the
exactly.
only reason why this game is even coming out is because Ubisoft's reputation is in the dumpster. Exactly.
And that's the whole thing is like, even if like the game comes out, bad reputation, but it sells a lot, right? I can tell you right now, it's not going to sell the amount that they wanted to recoup the losses that, like, let's say Shadows, put front. But, like, how year over year of a declining reputation, that's even less in the sales department, So it's just, it's an added cost, and I'm willing to wait out that thing. It's like, I don't ride or die by, like, the sales numbers of whatever game I think is bad or good. I'll laugh if when something I don't like bombs, because that's kind of gratifying, but I don't ride or die based on the performance of these games, because there's more important things to discuss with the games than the outright performance,
Right, that's totally fair.
Yeah. Yeah, so that's Ubisoft. Yes.
So that's Black Flag and Ubisoft.
We don't really have time. We don't really have time for anything else, right? You only have 15 minutes?
Give or take, yeah.
Yeah, so if that's the case, we'll close it out with this little surprise I want to do, and we'll push a lot of this off till next week. Yeah,
okay.
We'll push it. So, Dan, just this little surprise thing. It's nothing serious. Don't panic.
Okay.
I told you for a while I was thinking of a way to bookend our podcast episodes, right?
Yes, that is true.
Yes, I wanted something to run counter to what we've been playing, just something to make our closures a little bit more clean, I guess. And obviously, you won't have much to say on this week because I'm just showing it to you now. But the idea I want to try, and I came up with it, and if it doesn't stick, it doesn't stick. I want to do. It's called Slice of Life. So at the beginning,
my interest is piqued.
Yes. Our episodes are filled with consequential news and topics, ongoing events, all that kind of stuff, right? Mm-hmm. I figure we end with small anecdotes, I guess, stuff that doesn't fit into the news category, gossip or drama or whatever, not to confuse it with small news, because small news is separate, but like basically small things that we just encounter that don't roll into major news stories or segments, things that we just feel like talking about, the hopes that they go to, grander talk, that makes sense for the things that we've talked about with grander topics, right? But, still related to gaming. Does that make sense?
It does.
Okay. So, I'll give you, what I have. Obviously, you're not going to have anything, but what I have is, previously we've talked about, where I've brought up that these Japanese companies have been doing a lot of customer policies, I guess we could say. Like, I think the official term is customer harassment policies or something like that, right?
Yeah, we went over it last week, actually, with the Arxis thing.
Yes, the Arxis thing, and then I explained that Square and Namco and Capcom, all these companies have kind of been adopting from this similar playbook. And the takeaway, and you kind of said it before I could even explain it, is that these companies basically don't want you to, critique them in any way or talk poorly about them or say anything bad or whatnot. Dan Wynn should know what I have a good example of something that happened. So there's this popular streamer for Final Fantasy XIV. His name, what is it? It's like Xenosis or something like that. That's his handle, right? He got banned earlier in the week, or like in the middle of the week. I think it was like May 21st, right? The reason given was aggressive or vulgar comments on his Twitch stream. Now, this may sound strange to you, Dan. It's his Twitch stream. He didn't get banned from Twitch. He got removed while he was playing in-game. He got removed by a game master from the content he was doing and banned in the game. And the reasoning for this is apparently on his Twitch stream, he said some mean things about Kate Swinar, the localizer of Dawn Trail, which I've talked to you about before, who is seemingly absent now, and the voice actor Senya Breyer, who voiced a character. He voiced what's the character's name, like Wuklamat or something like that. I can't even remember this character's name because she's just in your face, but she's also annoying and forgettable in a way. And these two people have been major talking point since Dawn Trail launched, because like aside from the game's issues, you have this voice actor who is the first in a long time to like get involved in cultural shit and politics and talk crap online, and you have a localizer who's doing much the same. So he apparently said something like, you know, he was making what could be described as harsh criticisms of the voice acting and the game directions and decisions while playing Final Fantasy XIV. And because he was doing that, exactly, he got a temporary ban, a temporary suspension for aggressive comments and behavior, which apparently you can't show when you apparently cannot have that. You can't critique the company. And you definitely can't when you're playing the game on a streaming service, or they'll go in and ban you. And this is the kind of stuff that I was warning about with these customer harassment policies. Is, you know, it starts small. You know, you think it's reasonable, like, oh, don't make death threats or anything like that. And then it turns into, if you are just streaming on a platform that they do not run, they do not own, and you're not even directly talking to them, you are talking about the game and the product in question, they will ban you in game. So,
if you want to talk about censorship, goddamn.
Yeah, I mean, they're getting more aggressive on their home turf in Japan. There was a blog for Final Fantasy XIV that got taken to court over publishing articles that Square Enix says crossed into harassment and damaging the reputations of employees and executives because they were making accusations about mismanagement and incompetence. And that resulted in the site being permanently shut down, and they needed to pay out a certain amount in court. There was another anonymous, a person who wishes to remain anonymous, who was a video creator. He was a video creator in Japan. He was taken to court, and you know, it's because he was posting videos that were allegedly about harassment or personal. Again, it's like they throw harassment in there because harassment could be anything from me heckling you to me getting in your face. They never say specifically what it is. They don't mention if it devolved into threats. They're just saying harassment as a fucking catch-all umbrella term. And then aside from that, it's like personal attacks. Who gives a fuck about personal attacks? Who cares about defamation? You don't take these people to court or ban them from the game over this. And it's like, I get it. There are EULAs and terms of services, but these things are never acted upon unless it's like heinous shit. But now it's just as simple as, you think this voice actor that they hired for the latest expansion is dog shit? Too bad, you're making someone's feelings hurt, so you got to get kicked from the game. Oh, you think the localization's crap? Well, you said that while you were playing the game, so we have the authority to ban you from the game. And so that's my little corner, just as a little follow-up that, you know, would otherwise just get swept under the rug or anything. It's not we're not at the point of mass bannings yet, but like they're watching and they want any excuse to get rid of you if you critique them in any way, shape, or form. So that's my little
that's shitty.
Slice.
Oh, God, these fucking companies, man.
Yeah.
I like this idea for a bookend of the episode. Obviously completely unprepared, but
no, that's fine. But from now on, like, you know, we talk about big news stuff all the time. If you have small anecdotes that are in your realm and you want to talk about them, take notes and we'll talk about them at the end.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, I definitely come across plenty of things that are anecdotal like that. So when I do, I will record them and then, you know, cherry pick which ones I want to talk about that given week.
Yeah, so perfect. We have our bookends now.
Cool. Maybe you should make a new channel, so I have someplace to dump it. Otherwise, it's going to get buried under the sea of links that we send back and forth.
Yeah, of course. There you go. I made it right there.
Beautiful. Slice o life.
There you go.
Nice. All right. Yeah. I mean, this is probably a good place as any to end it because we just don't have the time to get into any other
Of
topics
course.
right now.
We'll have more of
Yeah,
that
the
next
whole
week.
death of, yeah, the whole death of Destiny really ate up the majority of the episode.
Oh yeah.
But you know, that's fine. Alrighty. Let's see. If you are still listening, thank you very much. This has been episode 107 of the Pregame Network podcast. We will definitely be back next week to talk about more stuff and things and video games and primarily video games, only video games actually. We're only going to talk about video games.
Of course.
So with that being said, thank you very much, and we will catch everybody next week. Bye bye.
Bye bye.